My name is Emily Lawson, and I never expected to find myself caught between my heart and my loyalty to my family. At 35, I consider myself a dependable sister, a devoted daughter, and someone who prides herself on discretion. But last Friday changed everything, and this evening, I sat at the head of the table in our familiar dining room, ready to break the silence with words I had rehearsed a dozen times. Damn, my parents had invited us all for dinner to celebrate Dad's recent promotion. The setting was as it had always been, the oak table polished to a soft shine, Mom's hydrangea centerpiece, and the scent of roasted chicken wafting from the kitchen. The overhead lights cast a warm glow across this room where we shared birthdays, anniversaries, and quiet Sunday lunches. Through the window, I could see the last rays of sun melting behind the rooftops of Chicago, and a humid breeze carried the distant sound of traffic and the occasional siren. My sister Olivia arrived fashionably late, apologizing for running errands. She wore a navy blazer over white jeans, and her hair was pulled back in a sleek ponytail. When she smiled, it didn't reach her eyes. As we filled our plates, Mom reminded us that family comes first. Olivia nodded and said, "Absolutely." My father leaned back with satisfaction and took a sip of his wine. I looked at Olivia, her posture a little rigid, her smile just a little forced. I realized that her promise to put family first was empty, and it stung worse than I expected. The truth is, last Friday, she slipped out of my apartment just as the school bus dropped off my daughter, Ava. I was juggling conference calls and lunch boxes, and I never saw Olivia again until today. That evening, she claimed she was running errands for Mom because she had volunteered to pick up supplies for Dad's celebration. Instead, she spent the night at Mark's loft, the same ex-boyfriend who had broken her heart 2 years ago. Mark, who is now engaged to someone else, had called her that afternoon, and she couldn't resist reliving memories she had spent months trying to forget. I remember pacing around my living room, listening to the hum of the refrigerator while Olivia's laugh echoed on the recordings of my apartment's security camera. Every creak of the floorboards felt louder than usual, and I wondered how she could hide beneath the same roof where my daughter needed her mother. I questioned why she would choose to be with him when she knew I had to leave for a business presentation the next morning. Worse, I wondered how she could pretend to help Mom while running off to relive memories that hurt her more than they ever healed. That afternoon, after I watched the footage, I called my best friend Jess. She listened in silence before advising me to gather the courage to tell the truth. "Olivia needs to face the consequences," she said gently, reminding me that protecting her from herself would only enable more reckless choices. Jess knew Olivia's history and understood my loyalty. She told me to be calm and matter of fact, because emotional outbursts would derail the conversation. I practiced what I would say, feeling a flutter of anxiety and a swell of determination in my chest. Jess cried with me over the phone when I confessed my guilt, reminding me that as my sister, I deserved honesty just as much as Mom and Dad did. She told me that she believed in my strength and my fairness, that I could speak the truth without destroying our family. Her words calmed the storm in my chest, though the knot in my throat remained. By the time I hung up, I felt resolute and more prepared than I ever had to face Olivia at the dinner table. Mom called me Saturday afternoon, voice tight but curious. "Where's Liv?" she asked, her tone gentle but insistent. I hesitated, flashing back to the security recording. "She didn't come by," I finally said, keeping my voice steady. Mom didn't press further, but I heard the disappointment in her sigh. I knew my silence would only protect Olivia for so long. I thought back to the afternoons my sister and I spent on our grandmother's porch, sharing secrets and dreams. She was the one who taught me how to ride a bike and who cheered me on when I graduated from college. I never imagined she would betray that bond so casually. Our childhood promise to always have each other's back felt fragile now, as if one careless night could shatter everything we built together. That brings me to tonight, when Mom reminded us that no matter what happens, we are a family first. I looked around at the faces at the table, Dad beaming, Mom hopeful, and Olivia smiling as if everything was normal. My stomach churned, my throat felt dry, and my pulse raced. I wanted desperately to let it lie, to pretend that last Friday never happened. But as I picked up my glass of water, I felt a familiar resolve. Family comes first, I began softly, mirroring Mom's words. Everyone turned to me. Every one of us says that, Mom. You say it when you fuss over Dad. Dad, you say it before each of your speeches. Olivia, you just said it. I paused, letting my gaze settle on Olivia's face. She looked vulnerable, uncertain. I need to tell you what happened last Friday, I continued. My hands trembled slightly over the glass. You said you were helping Mom with supplies. But I saw you at Mark's loft, drinking and laughing. At 2 in the morning. You missed picking up the groceries Dad needed for today's celebration. The room was silent except for the soft ticking of the antique clock on the mantel. That Mom's face drained of color, and Dad set down his fork with a clatter. Olivia's eyes widened, her cheeks flushing. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. I felt a pang of guilt, seeing the betrayal in her eyes. Yet I knew that if I stayed silent, it would eat at me forever. Dad's voice was quiet but carried the weight of disappointment. Olivia, is this true? He asked, looking at his daughter as if he were seeing her for the first time. Olivia's jaw trembled. For a moment, the confident facade cracked, revealing the scared woman underneath. Mom rose from her chair and went to her, pulling her into an embrace. My fierce protective instinct flared. I hated seeing Olivia hurt by my words, but I reminded myself that honesty is part of love. If family truly comes first, we must hold each other accountable. I watched as tears welled in Olivia's eyes and wondered how many other lies had been hiding just beneath our surface. My mind raced with questions. How would this change the way we gathered for holidays? Could Dad trust her in future celebrations? Would Ava notice a rift between her aunt and me? I clenched my fists under the table, my wedding ring pressing into my skin as a reminder of promises made and the integrity I valued most. Silence settled in the room as Olivia sagged into Mom's arms. I wondered what would happen next. Would Dad forgive her? Would I? And what would this mean for the tight bond we had always claimed to share? My heart raced with anticipation and dread as I waited for Olivia to finally speak. I glanced down at my water glass, tracing a droplet as it slid. This was only the beginning. The real test of our family's unity was just ahead, and I wasn't sure any of us knew what came next.
Olivia's voice trembled as she finally spoke, the hush in the dining room closing in around us. I'm sorry, she whispered, eyes fixed on the table. I didn't plan to hurt anyone. I needed to feel something other than guilt and failure. When Mark called, I thought I could face my past, but I lost track of everything else. Her apology hung between us, fragile yet raw. Dad folded his arms across his chest. A deep furrow etched between his brows. You abandoned your responsibilities, Liv, he said quietly, not scolding but disappointed. You let us down. Mom tightened her hold on Olivia's shoulder, tears glistening in her eyes. I watched my sister shrink under their combined sorrow, the weight of her actions pressing her small in that familiar room. I leaned forward, clasping my hands in my lap. Olivia, I understand pain can make you act impulsively, I said gently, but family first means we can't let our own struggles hurt each other. You're my sister and I love you, but going forward, we need honesty and reliability. Ava needs her aunt, Mom needs her daughter, and Dad needs his family present for him. Olivia's lips quivered as she nodded, her cheeks wet with tears. I know, she whispered, I'll do better. Her words were simple, but I sensed the beginning of real accountability. I offered her a small, tentative smile and reached across the table to gently squeeze her hand. A gesture of solidarity amid the tension. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment around that table. The house was silent except for the distant hum of the air conditioner. I thought about how quickly trust can warp, how a single night's choices can ripple outward, threatening the stability we'd taken for granted. But I also felt a quiet hope that this rupture could be a turning point. The next morning at work, I struggled to focus. Emails blurred together as I sat at my desk in the open plan office. The clack of keyboards and murmur of co-workers felt distant, like I was watching life through a fogged window. I found myself drafting an email to Olivia, offering to help her get organized again, but I deleted it before sending, worried it might seem patronizing. At lunchtime, my phone buzzed with a text from Dad. Let's talk this weekend. Family meeting at our place Saturday afternoon. No explanation, just a straightforward request. My stomach tightened at the prospect of another gathering so soon. But I replied with a simple okay. I knew he was trying to heal the fracture, and I wanted to support that effort. On Friday night, I drove past the familiar blocks of our neighborhood, memories of childhood summers flooding back. The house where we'd had the dinner, the house that held so many milestones loomed ahead. I parked in the driveway, feeling both comfort and apprehension. I took a deep breath, reminded myself of my goals, honesty, empathy, and rebuilding. Trust. Saturday afternoon, we convened in the living room. Dad had set out coffee and pastries while Mom ranged the hydrangeas again in the center table. The air smelled faintly of lilacs and promise. We sat in a circle, Mom, Dad, Olivia, Ava, perched on a cushion, and me. Dad began with a calm voice. We're here to move forward together. Let's each share what we need. Mom went first, expressing her longing for family unity and her fear of repeated disappointments. Olivia followed, describing her regret and her plan to attend weekly therapy sessions. She admitted she'd been overwhelmed after her job loss 2 months ago and felt unmoored. Hearing her articulate these struggles in front of us felt like the first solid step toward healing. When it was my turn, I spoke about my need for clear communication and partnerships in family duties. Especially with Ava, I reminded everyone that while love is unconditional, trust is earned daily. I pledged to support Olivia's recovery and invited her to co-manage Ava's schedule, hoping shared responsibility would reinforce her commitment. Ava tugged on Olivia's sleeve and asked if they could bake cookies together that afternoon. Olivia's eyes lit up and she agreed immediately. Mom beamed, and I felt a warmth spread through me at seeing my daughter reach out with such faith. It felt like hope incarnate, a reminder that innocence and forgiveness are powerful forces. Later, as we scattered to our routines, I noticed Olivia heading to the kitchen with my daughter, teaching her how to measure flour. Their laughter drifted through the hallway, a melody I hadn't realized I'd missed. In that simple scene, I saw the beginnings of restoration, shared tasks, mutual joy, and the slow rebuilding of trust. That evening, I sat on my porch, the twilight sky painted in shades of indigo and rose. I reflected on the day's dialogue, the courage it took us all to speak honestly, and the tentative steps we'd taken toward reconciliation. I felt proud of my family's willingness to confront pain openly, even when it meant risk. Yet I sensed that this fragile peace could still be disrupted. Olivia's therapy appointments, the new routines for Ava, my own lingering doubts, they were all part of a delicate balance. I knew that challenges would arise, that tests of loyalty and reliability would come. But sitting there with the evening breeze on my face, I felt resolved to face them head on. As I closed my eyes, I silently vowed to keep family first by practicing patience, extending grace, and demanding accountability. The road ahead would not be easy, but I believed we could travel it together. With that thought, I opened my eyes and looked toward our house, where behind lit windows, my sister and daughter were creating happy memories at last. The next chapter of our family's story was beginning, and I was ready to see where it led. Waking to dawn's pale light filtering through sheer curtains, I pressed a hand to my cheek and savored the calm. The house felt more alive than months before, with laughter echoing and dishes from yesterday still in the sink as comforting reminders. I breathed deeply, feeling the humid summer breeze drifting, carrying distant chirps of birds and the faint hum of traffic. I padded downstairs in soft slippers, drawn by the smell of fresh coffee and cinnamon toast. In the kitchen, Olivia stood at the counter, carefully buttering slices of bread while humming a familiar tune from our childhood. The morning sun cast warm golden streaks across the countertops, highlighting her focused expression. For a fleeting moment, I felt the years melt away and sensed normalcy returning. Ava sat at the small table, coloring with her markers sprawling on the placemat. She glanced up at Olivia and beamed. Aunt Liv, can I help spread the jam? Olivia nodded, scooping bright raspberry jam onto a butter knife. Watching them work together in simple harmony filled me with pride and relief. These small moments, once too easy to take for granted, now felt precious and rare. Olivia slid toast onto our plates and poured coffee into mugs, the steam curling in the warm kitchen light. She told me about her first therapy session, how it challenged her to face fears she'd hidden for too long. She admitted it was terrifying to talk candidly, but she felt lighter afterward. I recognized that courage. I had stared down my own insecurities when I started a new role at work last year. We breakfasted in companionable silence, punctuated by Ava's excited retelling of her school project. I felt a twinge of unease, remembering a voicemail from my boss about an impromptu meeting today. Balancing my career demands with our family's fresh equilibrium felt daunting. But seeing Olivia's determination and Ava's trust reassured me that together we could navigate the unexpected, just like we had overcome harder moments in the past. Later that morning, Olivia left for her second therapy appointment, her face Resolute as she hugged me, I watched her walk down the sidewalk in my navy blazer. Her posture straightened by new confidence as I turned inside. My phone buzzed with a calendar reminder my boss wanted me in a video call in 10 minutes. I squared my shoulders, poured a glass of water and readied myself to step into work mode. The video call was intense, filled with strategic questions about budget forecasts and team restructuring. My mind flickered between data points and thoughts. Of Olivia's progress, I found myself leaning on skills I'd sharpened as a sister: patience, attentive listening, and clear communication. I answered pointed questions calmly, cited recent performance metrics, and proposed a phased implementation plan that impressed my colleagues. Midday brought a surprising text from Olivia. She rushed home, an urgent tone in her message. My heart fluttered as I dropped my notes and hurried to the front door. She stood on the porch, eyes red-rimmed and voice trembling. An unexpected work conflict had overwhelmed her, and she'd missed her therapy session. I dropped my bag, wrapped her in my arms, and felt the familiar ache of worry for her well-being. We sat at the kitchen island while she explained, tears falling softly. Juggling her freelance clients and therapy had become too much. She apologized, fiercely, terrified she'd resurrect old patterns of avoidance. I held her hand and reminded her that recovery isn't linear. I suggested reaching out to her therapist to reschedule, and offered to help manage her client deadlines. Solidarity meant showing up when it counted most. By late afternoon, we drafted an email to her clients together, proposing a slight extension on deliverables. Olivia also texted her therapist, securing a makeup session and arranging a standing weekly appointment. That night, we planned a realistic schedule on the whiteboard in my office: therapy, job tasks, and family time. Seeing it mapped out in clear black marker felt like a promise we could keep, a tangible blueprint for lasting change. Saturday morning dawned bright and clear as our family prepared for Dad's ceremony at the community center. He was being honored for 25 years of public service, and the hall buzzed with friends and neighbors. Olivia helped pin his boutonniere, her hand steady and precise. I caught her eye and gave a small nod. She smiled back, eyes shining with pride. I realized how far we'd come since that fraught evening. Walking into the hall together, Dad's gait was strong, shoulders squared with gratitude. Mom held his arm, and Ava skipped beside us, waving at familiar faces. I fell into step next to Olivia and we shared a quiet smile. The room erupted in applause as Dad stepped to the podium. His speech was heartfelt, thanking family and colleagues alike. When he mentioned Olivia's kindness and my steadfast support, my chest swelled. After the ceremony, people surrounded us with congratulations and hugs. Dad introduced me as his daughter and Olivia as his daughter equals both. Strangers commented on our closeness. I laced my fingers through Olivia's as we posed for photos. In that moment, I knew our family bond had been tempered by honest conflict and emerged stronger. Moments like these forged unbreakable links beyond any single mistake. Later that evening, we gathered at home for pizza on the porch. Fireflies blinked in the dark yard, and a gentle breeze rustled the maple leaves overhead. Olivia and Ava danced barefoot in the grass while Mom and Dad watched from Adirondack chairs, sipping iced tea. I sat between them, heart full as the lavender sky gave way to stars. A sense of deep contentment settled over me, proof that love endured. Lying in bed that night, I reflected on our journey, the betrayal, the confrontation, the healing steps, and the renewed unity. Family first had meant difficult conversations, shared burdens, and unyielding compassion. As sleep claimed me, I felt ready for anything, knowing that whatever storms may come, we'd face them together with honesty, courage, and unwavering loyalty, and that truth would guide us through every tomorrow.